staring at me from eyes that could not see me. Go away, I repeated.
Hey guys, also Sean here,
I could not stand
doing
She
Coretta
was
Scott
not simply
King
herself, she was thousands
cartoon,
upon thousands of young lives destroyed.
Martin Luther King wife.
She came closer.
She was a nice looking woman.
I believe you're
Helped
crying.
pave the way for
She said,
generations of
Go away,
myself.
for God's sake, go away, I told her. She hesitated. Then she turned and felt her way back to the door. As she went out, you can tell them I'll be staying, I said. The first thing I was aware of the next morning was the smell. There had been whiffs of it here and there before, but luckily the weather had been cool. Now I found that I had slept late into what was already a warmer day. I'm not going into details about the smell. Those who knew it will never forget it, but the rest of it is indescribable. It rose from every city and town for weeks, and traveled on every wind that blew. When I woke to it that morning, it convinced me beyond doubt that the end had come. Death is just the shocking end of animation. It is dissolution that is final. I lay for some minutes thinking. The only thing to do now would be to load my party into lorries and take them in relays into the country. And all the supplies we had collected, they would have to be loaded and taken too, and I, the only one able to drive, it would take days, if we had days. Upon that, I wondered what was happening in the building now. The place was oddly quiet. When I listened, I could hear a voice groaning in another room. Beyond that, nothing. I got out of bed and hurried into my clothes with a feeling of alarm. Out on the landing, I listened again. There was no sound of feet about the house. I had a sudden nasty feeling as if history were repeating itself and I were back in the hospital again. Hey! Anybody here? I called. Several voices answered. I opened a nearby door. There was a man in there. He looked very bad, and he was delirious. There was nothing I could do. I closed the door again. My footsteps sounded loud on the wooden stairs. On the next floor, a woman's voice called,
Okay, so
Bill!
I'm not gonna do her eyebrows and the rest of stuff yet, like in her hair and stuff, not just yet.
She turned her head as I came in. I saw that she had it too. Don't come near, she said. It is you, Bill. Yes. I thought it must be.
I'm going to use the Premier Color Gold, and I'm going to use the Crazy Art
I told them you'd not go like
Toasted
that.
Toffee
They said
for
you
her
had.
skin. Now remember, on the
Now they've all gone.
Premier Color, it will smudge if you're not
I
careful.
was asleep. I
So
said,
be careful.
what happened? More and more of us like this. They were frightened. I said helplessly, what can I do for you? Is there anything I can get you? Her face contorted. She clutched her arms round her and writhed. The spasm passed and left her with sweat trickling down her forehead. Please, Bill. I'm not very brave. Could you get me something to finish it? Yes, I said. I can do that for you. I was back from the chemist's in 10 minutes. I gave red-headed young man who had fired on us that conditioned my choice of a route to Westminster. Since I was 16, my interest in weapons has decreased. But in an environment reverting to savagery, it seemed that one must be prepared to behave more or less as a savage, or possibly cease to behave at all before long. In St. James's Street, there used to be several shops which would sell you any form of lethalness from a rook rifle to an elephant gun with the greatest urbanity. I left there with a mixed feeling of support and banditry. Once more, I had a useful hunting knife. There was a pistol with the precise workmanship of a scientific instrument in my pocket. On the seat beside me rested a loaded 12-bore and boxes of cartridges. I had chosen a shotgun in preference to a rifle. The bang is no less convincing.
So now, I'm going to also, before I use the toasted toffee,
and there were triffids to be seen.
I'm going to also use this Spanish orange on here. It's the premium color Spanish orange.
There were others in Green Park.
This is
Very likely they were ornamental, safely got specimens. On the other hand, maybe they weren't. And so I came to Westminster. The deadness, the finish of it all, was italicized there. The usual scatter of abandoned vehicles lay about the streets. Very few people were in sight. I saw only 3 who were moving. 2 were tapping their way down the gutters of Whitehall. The third was in Parliament Square. He was sitting close to Lincoln's statue and clutching to him his dearest possession, a side of bacon, from which he was hacking a ragged slice with a blunt knife. Above it all rose the Houses of Parliament, with the hands of the clock stopped at 3 minutes past 6. It was difficult to believe that all that meant nothing anymore, but now it was just a pretentious confection in uncertain stone which could decay in peace. Let it shower its crumbling pinnacles onto the terrace as it would, there would be no more indignant members complaining of the risk of their valuable lives. Into those halls which had in their days sent world echoes to good intentions and sad expediencies, the roofs would in due course fall. There would be none to stop them.
okay, so now I'm going to get my toasted toffee, and I'm just going to shade certain areas of
So it
Coretta.
would flow until the day the embankments crumbled and the water spread out, and Westminster
Certain
became
areas
once more an island.
of her face.
Marvelously clear fretted in the unsmoked air, the Abbey rose, silver grey. It stood detached by the serenity of age from the ephemeral growths around it. It was solid on a foundation of centuries, destined perhaps for centuries yet to preserve within it the monuments to those whose work was now all destroyed. I did not loiter there. In years to come, I expect some will go to look at the old Abbey with romantic melancholy. But romance of that kind is an alloy of tragedy with retrospect. I was too close. Moreover, I was beginning to experience something new. The fear of being alone. I had not been alone since I walked from the hospital along Piccadilly, and then there had been bewildering novelty in all I saw. Now, for the first time, I began to feel the horror that real loneliness holds for a species
let's
that
put a
is
little
financially
makeup on
precarious,
Coretta's face because she had a little makeup on her face.
exposed to all the fears that prowled. I made myself drive up on Victoria Street. The sound of the car itself alarmed me with its
Yeah,
echoes.
she had a little makeup on
My
her face,
impulse
so
was
let's
to
put
leave it
some
and sneak
makeup on
silently
her.
on foot, seeking
Make
safety
her
and
look
travel
nice and
like a beast in the
pretty.
jungle. It needed all my willpower to keep myself steady and hold to my plan. For I knew what I should have done had I chanced to be allocated to this district. I should have sought supplies in its biggest department store. Somebody had stripped the provision department of the Army and Navy stores all right, but there was no one there now. I came out by a side door.
That was what I had used. It was the premium color pink. Now we'll use the premium color Newberry. Newberry, however you pronounce it.
It glared at me and slunk off.
Around
The
her
man
eye.
came round a corner. He had a gloating expression on his face and was perseveringly rolling a large cheese along the middle of the road. When he heard my step, he halted his cheese and sat on it, brandishing his stick fiercely.
Now go get the premium color white and go over certain areas of her face
The
with it.
probability was that Josella too would have chosen a hotel as a convenient headquarters.
Now go use the premium color black
I discovered a tin opener
and go her eyebrows with it.
She was still futilely scrabbling away at her tin. You'd better throw that away. It's coffee, I told her. I put the opener into her hand and gave her a tin of beans. Listen to me, I said. Do you know anything of a girl around here? A girl that can see? She'd be in charge of a party, most likely. I was not very hopeful, but something must have helped the old woman to keep going longer than most. It seemed almost too good to be true when she nodded. Yes, she said as she started the opener. You do? Where is she? I demanded. Somehow it never occurred to me that it could be anyone but Josella. But she shook her head. I don't know.
Okay, so now I'm gonna use the crazy all white and try to blend everything out.
I'd not wait for a poor old woman I could never find her again. She went on cutting intently around the tin. Where is she living? I asked. We was all in a hotel. I know where it is, or I found him again. Don't you know the name of the hotel? Not me. Ain't no good knowing the names of places when you can't see to read them. Oh, nobody else can't either. But you must remember something about it. No, I don't. She lifted the can and sniffed cautiously at the contents. Look here, I said coldly. You want to keep those tins, don't you? She made a movement with one arm to gather them all to her. Well, then you better tell me all you can about that hotel, I went on. You must know, for instance, whether it was large or small. She considered, one arm still protected.
And make sure you try not to smudge, because like I said before, it will try to smudge on you. It's very pigmented.
It's smart too, a woman read it, and then quiet carpets and good beds and good sheets. Nothing else about it. No, not as I... Yes, there was though. He had 2 small steps outside, and he went in through one of them round doors. That's better, I said. You're quite sure of that? If I can't find it, I can find you again, you know. This is God's truth, mister. 2 small steps and round door. She rummaged in a battered bag beside her, brought out a dirty spoon, and began to taste the beans as if they were one of the jams in paradise. There were, I found, still more hotels round there than I had thought.
Get dog with my hands. Shut.
I kept on. There was no mistaking it when I did find it. The traces of the smell were all too familiar. Anybody here? I called in the echoing lounge. I was about to go further in when a groan came from one corner. Over in a semi-dark recess, a man was lying on a settee. Even in the dimness, it was possible to see that he was far gone.
I tried to,
I did not go too close. His eyes open.
no matter if I go slow or fast, my hands telling me, do all you can. I'm still gonna, this arthritis is like, do all you can, because I'm still will come out and give you problems, give you pain, give you headaches.
The taps were dry. I squirted a couple of siphons into a big jug and took it out with a cup. Put them down with the police. Thanks, mate, he said.
Now I'm gonna do something else. I'm going to
He dipped the cup into the jug and then drained it. Cold, he said. Did I need that? And he repeated the action.
add this to the side just a little. It's I don't know if I want to add this. Yeah, it's purple, I think. But I'm lightly putting it purple on here. Lightly purple.
A sudden suspicion struck me like a physical stab. You don't mean...
This is the premium color velvet,
No, she's just gone. Same as all of this
I think.
Could. Where did she go, do you know? Can't tell you that, mate. I see. I said, heavily. You best be going to, chum. Hang around here long and you'll be staying for keeps like me. He was right. I stood looking down at him. Anything else I can get you? This will last me. Alright, there won't be much longer I'll need anything. He paused. Then he added, Bye, mate. Thanks a lot.
This
but
is
I
the
decided that in his state,
premier
no one could
color,
have any clear idea of
poppy
why.
red
The one
for
place I
her
could think of to go
lipstick.
to was the university building. I reckon Josella would think the same, and there was a hope that some others of our dispersed party might have drifted back there in an effort to reunite. It was not a very strong hope, for common sense should have caused them to leave the town days ago. 2 flags still hung above the tower, limp in the warm air of the
Laying
evening.
it out with the crazy
Of the 2
art
dozen
white.
or so lorries that had been accumulated in the forecourt, 4 still stood there, apparently untouched. I
Alright.
parked the car beside them and went into the building.
Now,
My footsteps clattered in the silence.
her hair. Let's do her
Hello?
hair. It's the premier color picture
Is there anyone here? My voice echoed away down corridors and out wells, diminishing to the parody of a whisper, and then to silence. I went to the doors of the other wing and called again.
Yeah, the
Once more, the
premier
echoes died away
color
unbroken,
black. So
settling softly as dust. Only then, as I turned back, did I notice the inscription inside the outer door. In large letters, it gave simply an address. Tynesham Manor, Tynesham, near Devices, Wilts. That was something, at least. I looked at it and thought. In another hour or less, it would be dusk. Devices, I guessed, at 100 miles distant, probably more. I went outside again and examined the lorries. One of them was the last that I had driven in, the one in which I had stowed my despised anti-triffic gear. I recalled that the rest of its load was a useful assortment of food and supplies. It would be much better to arrive with that than empty-handed in a car. Nevertheless, if there were no urgent reason for it, I did not fancy driving anything, much less a large, heavily loaded lorry by night along roads which might reasonably be expected to produce a number of hazards. If I were to pile it up, and the odds were that I should, I would lose a lot more time in finding another and transferring the load than I would by spending the night here. An early start in the morning offered much better prospect. I moved my boxes of cartridges from the car to the cab of the lorry in readiness. The gun I kept with me. I found the room from which I had rushed to the fake fire alarm exactly as I had left it. My clothes on a chair, even the cigarette case and lighter where I had placed them beside my improvised bed.
now you can make her hair darker if you want to, but I'm not gonna do so because of my arthritis. Because of my arthritis, so I'm just gonna leave it as one shade.
It was in the northwest corner, standing perfectly still,
But you could go darker.
considerably taller than the bushes that surrounded it. I went closer and blew the top of it to bits with a single shot. The noise in the silent square could scarcely have been more alarming if I'd let off a howitzer. When I was sure that there were no others lurking, I went into the garden and sat with my back against a tree. I stayed there perhaps 20 minutes. The sun was low, and half the square was thrown into shadow. Soon I would have to go in. While there was light, I could sustain myself.
Okay,
Dark things could steal quietly.
so now I'm gonna fill in her earring.
Already I was on my way back to the primitive. Before long, perhaps,
I'm going to use I'm using the premier color yellow. I think it says creamy yellow.
I delayed to take one more look
Creamy
around the
yellow,
square,
yeah.
as if it were a page of history I would learn before it was turned.
And I'm gonna get this
I heard the
premier
grating of
color
footsteps on the
white
road.
and put on
A
here
slight
too.
sound, but as loud in the silence as a grinding
And I'm
millstone.
gonna get my crazy art white
I
to
turned with my
blend it
gun
out
ready.
together.
Crusoe was no more startled at the sight of a footprint than I at the sound of a footfall, for it had not the hesitancy of a blind man's.
Now I'm gonna get the premier color black again and fill in
As
her
it left the road and
color
entered the garden, I saw that it was
black,
the
but
man.
this time I'm going to press on
He had seen
it
me before I
because it's
heard
not going to take me
him. He
long
was coming
to
straight towards me.
fill it in. So
You don't need to shoot, he said, holding empty hands wide apart. I did not know him until he came within a few yards. Simultaneously, he recognized me. Oh, it's you, is it? He said. I kept the gun raised. Hello, Coca. What are you after? Wanting me to go on another of your little parties? I asked him. No. You can put the thing down. Makes
Now I'm going to use my premier color apple green for her jacket, shirt.
I reckon you all did have the right idea from the start. And it didn't look right. And it didn't sound right a week ago. 6 days ago, I corrected it. A week, said he. No, I'm sure. Oh, well, what the hell's it matter anyway, I said. In the circumstances, I went on. What do you say to declaring an amnesty and starting over again? He agreed.
And this is my Coretta Scott King cartoon. I hope that you guys are enjoying my audio book of the Day of the Triffles. I know I am. I've been enjoying it. I hope you enjoy my cartoon. I hope you enjoy my cartoon for somebody that helped lead the way for us black people to have what we have today. And that's freedom in Jesus' name.
We ruminated for some